Hi there, my name is Dr. William Bird and this is Chat with the GP, and today is about colds. Why do we get so many colds? What are they? And how can we stop getting so many colds? In fact, can we stop getting colds at all? Well, unfortunately, the answer is probably no, because they're absolutely the cleverest things in the world of being able to get into your system and replicating and surviving. And they've been doing that for millions of years. So I think we're going to be up against it if we're going to try and stop having them altogether. But we can reduce the number of colds that we get. And I'm going to start by just sort of finding out how many colds should you have? 2 or 3 for an adult, a lot more for children. Incubation is about 1 to 3 days, and it's spread a bit like COVID. Droplets when you sneeze, aerosols that hang around in the air, and things that you touch, and then they get passed on when you touch into your mouth or to your nose. And there are lots, 200 different viruses that cause the common cold. But by far the cleverest of them is the rhinovirus. That's the one that keeps on reinventing itself and changes every year. So we can never quite catch up and actually get a proper immunity to it. But influenza can cause the common cold as well as flu, and there are many others as well, as you can see here. This year we've had pretty much an average amount of colds, but the coughs have been going on for much longer. So there may be a little variant of the viruses that have made our coughs much worse than normal and longer. But as you can see here, that there was a rise over Christmas of colds and flu, and then we've got another rise developing. And actually, if we look at that, you can see that it's flu. So flu peaked a little bit in Christmas. It's now going up a lot more as we go into the January into February. And if we look at the difference between them, you'll notice that the cold is pretty much what you'd expect. You know, it's a snuffly, it's a sore throat, a headache. You feel pretty rubbish. But the influenza feeling is very different. You get a sudden surge of kind of headache, myalgia, muscle ache, and high temperature. And that can really make you ill. The old adage is, if there was a £20 note on the doormat, with a cold, you'd whiz downstairs and pick it up. With flu, you'd say, someone have it. You're not interested. That's how the difference is between the two. And our defense mechanisms, though, are pretty good. And as you can imagine, over our evolution, the viruses and the human have been always at war, and viruses have always come through in different pandemics and epidemics and actually been part of our own system. The placenta, for example, is thought to be from some viral infection we had millions of years ago, which actually evolved into the placenta. But there are other the main aspects of the influenza and the cold's defense is mucus. So the mucus in our airways is it kind of like a sticky trap. And once the virus goes in there, it slows it down, allows our immune system to get in there while it's not moving very fast. Then you've got your natural killer cells of the scouts. They're the things that will just kill anything that doesn't look like it's part of your body. And then you get other things like interferon, which actually is amazing because they change the genes in the cell to actually defend against the virus. And then they knock on other cells to say, look, there's a problem in this one, you better be prepared as well. So all the cells around where the infection is will be prepared to stop this invader from coming in. So a few things here that we may be able to do to avoid catching a cold. First of all, can you catch a cold if you get cold? No, surely not. Yes, you can. And actually, I was involved with some research here back when I was working at the Met Office, that if the temperature drops outdoors, there's an increase in respiratory infections, both upper respiratory and lower respiratory. And it's thought to be from our immune system when we start shivering is kind of decreased, but also in our nose, the mucus, and particularly if the air becomes dry, which it tends to when it's cold, the mucus then starts to crack a little bit and it allows the virus in. So keeping warm is important. And if you've got a cold nose, you are more likely now to catch a cold. Your gut biome is so important. We hear about it all the time. And that's because if the gut biome, your bacteria aren't working very well, you get a leaky gut and you get little bits of virus material going into the gut and they circulate around and they cause an inflammatory response. That distracts the immune system away from what it should be doing, and therefore you're more likely to get infections, particularly colds. So just look after your immune system with the kimchi, the yogurt, probiotics, prebiotics, everything that we can talk about later. Physical activity, the mainstay of boosting your immune system by far. Natural killer cells are really increased every time you are active, and it also decreases the immune system's inflammation, which means it's focused on what it should be doing rather than being distracted. So keep yourself active. Too active and you overtrain like athletes, then you are more likely to get cold. So your immune system can go the other way if you are overactive. Chronic stress, again, causes that inflammatory part of the body. The cortisol, which is released when you're stressed, in acute stress is anti-inflammatory. When you are under chronic stress, it becomes inflammatory and therefore distracts the immune system from what it should be doing. So do be aware that that is something which is important. And in fact, it doubles the number, is quite extraordinary. Even vaccinations aren't taken up as well, 18% drop if you're stressed compared to if you're not stressed. Social support, I think you may or may not be surprised, but I think I'm surprised at 4 times more likely to catch a cold if you are feeling lonely or perceived as lonely. And that's even just by 1 to 3 contacts compared to 6 or more. So it's not isolated away from everyone else. It's actually that feeling that you haven't got that support around you. So keep that support going. And sleep, that, as you probably expect, boosts the immune system during a night. You need that good sleep to make it all work the next day. Again, it's the anti-inflammatory effect. And just a bit of, not many hours difference, 7 and below compared to 8 and above, is 3 times more likely the number of colds you're going to get. Smoking, you're not surprised perhaps, because that breaks down the mucus and it's inflammatory. So that will be one reason why that, or 2 reasons why that happens. Alcohol intake may be a bit of a surprise. So here you've got no alcohol increases the risk of getting a cold by by double. So you can get double the amount of virus and colds if you don't drink at all. If you have 2 or 3 drinks, it goes right down. If you are a heavy drinker, then it will go back up again. So it's that small amount of drinking with friends, of course, not on your own, will actually help increase that. And vitamins, you may be surprised that you think, surely that's the answer to preventing a cold. Well, I'm afraid not. If you have a good, healthy, balanced diet, added vitamins aren't going to help that much. Vitamin C does for people who are obese, who've got diabetes, or perhaps a poor diet, or been unwell, then yeah, take it, and it's not going to do any harm. In fact, it may do a lot of good. So vitamin C you can take, but it's not going to be the panacea. It's not going to be the answer compared to some of those other things we've talked about. And zinc, although the studies showed some change, it's not great when you look at all the studies put together. And actually the high dose of vitamin C, going back to that, it doesn't really have it. It was 1 or 2 studies in the 70s or 80s that kind of made this theory that high dose vitamin C makes a difference. I'm afraid it really doesn't. So let's have a look at a quick review of all of those things. Stay warm. Make sure your nose is warm. Eat well and cut out those processed foods to make sure the immune system is good, and also you've got your vitamins. Pre and probiotic foods. Remain active. Keep yourself that buffered from stress, that chronic stress. Look at all the techniques to do that. Stay connected with friends and family. Sleep. Don't smoke. Drink a bit. And oh yeah, keep washing your hands. I hope that was helpful. Another one for next week. Chat with your GP. I'm William Bird, and thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye.